I didn't feel joyful. I was scared. I was afraid. And, it wasn't anxiety. They were like panic attacks,
Yeah.
which are different.
Goldie Hawn, the woman whose laugh once lit up a whole generation. To the world. She was pure joy, pure sunshine, pure Hollywood sparkle. But now at 79, Goldie is finally speaking her truth. And please hit the subscribe button. It cost you nothing, but it means a lot to me. Exposing the 6 actors she quietly kept on her never again list. The ones she secretly could not stand working with. They used to call her America's sweetheart, the woman everyone felt safe loving. But behind her back, people in the industry whispered she was greedy, fake, even overrated. Goldie heard those whispers, remembered every jab, and promised herself she would never share a set with certain people ever again. And once you hear the names, you'll see exactly why that smile she wore hid so much real hurt. Bill Murray, the public takedown that pushed Goldie Hawn to walk away for good. Out of everyone on her private blacklist, Bill Murray sits right at the top. Not because they clashed for years, but because of one single moment she could never erase. It was supposed to be an easy table read for a late 8s studio comedy. On paper, pairing America's Sweetheart with comedy's unpredictable wild card looked like a sure win. But that day in that room, Bill Murray pulled something that left Goldie stunned and embarrassed in front of the whole room. One comment, one gesture, one instant sharp enough to cut straight through the Hollywood magic she grew up believing in. From the moment she walked out of that building, she already knew she would never appear next to Bill Murray again. The second the table read kicked off, the vibe fell apart. Within minutes, the room shifted from excitement to straight dread. Murray rolled in almost an hour late. Loud, wrinkled, and absolutely not sorry. He let a half-empty coffee cup drop right onto the script pages and said, "Now we can start." Goldie stared at him and felt it right then. Something bad was coming and coming fast. As the reading began, Goldie slipped into her lines with that same warm, sharp timing that made her a star. Then, out of nowhere, Murray cut right into her mid-scene, giving her this smug little smirk as he said, "Why don't you try acting like you've done drama before?" The men in the room cracked up like it was the funniest thing they ever heard. Goldie didn't laugh, not even close. She just closed her script, stood up, and walked out without a single word. That silent exit hit harder than any argument ever could. By morning, her team told the studio she was done. She wasn't coming back. No press, no comment, nothing. She slid right out of the project like she'd never been there. Later, to a friend, she said, "He thinks unpredictability is genius. I think it's exhausting." That moment shifted her whole career path. From then on, she stayed far away from volatile creatives who tried to mask cruelty as brilliance. She stepped back from male-driven comedies, refused to entertain unhinged behavior, and chose calm over chaos every time. And years later, when someone asked if she'd ever work with Murray again, her answer was cool, steady, and final. No interest. Then came Warren Beatty. The rejection that turned into payback. It all started with a single word, no. That one word was enough to set off Warren Beatty, a man famous for charm, power, and chasing whoever he wanted in Hollywood. In the late 1970s, at the peak of his fame, Warren decided Goldie would be his next target. First came the dinner invite, then the exclusive parties, then the private invitation to his Beverly Hills home, an offer. Everyone in Hollywood knew exactly how things worked. But Goldie wasn't built for that game. She stayed gracious, funny, classy, and firm. And that's when Warren's smooth act fell apart. Almost instantly, she started noticing strange shifts. Scripts she'd been promised suddenly disappearing. Meetings cancelled out of nowhere. Projects getting handed off without a reason. Goldie didn't need clues or gossip. She already knew whose ego she bruised. Directors who once praised her talent suddenly went cold. Producers who fought to put her in lead roles now stalled with awkward excuses. One even pulled her aside and whispered, Warren says, "You are difficult, not serious material." It wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. It was a quiet, calculated reputation hit. He doesn't handle rejection, Goldie admitted years later. He punishes it. Those 6 words explained everything. What started as one simple no slowly twisted into a vendetta that followed her through the early 1980s. Warren Beatty's pull in Hollywood was massive, and he used it like a weapon. Goldie never yelled, never confronted him, never tried to expose him. She let time do the talking, but eventually fate sat them in the same room again. An award show years after the drama. Warren approached her, flashing that familiar smooth smile, acting like nothing had ever happened. Goldie looked right at him, gave a soft, polite smile, then turned her back mid-sentence. No blow-up, no scene, just one clean, quiet, soul-crushing dismissal. Then came Dustin Hoffman, the audition that crushed Goldie's respect, third on her silent blacklist, and maybe the most shocking name of all. The world saw Hoffman as a genius. Goldie once did too. But one audition flipped everything. It was the early 1980s, and Goldie was ready to level up. She'd already proven she could make the world laugh. Now she wanted roles that made people feel something deep. A major drama was in development, and producers were thrilled about pairing her with Hoffman. Everyone expected sparks to fly. And they did. Just not the kind anyone hoped for. Halfway through their reading, Hoffman suddenly froze. He stared at Goldie with his cold, blank expression, then turned to the producers and said, "She's still playing it like a sitcom." Those words hit harder than any slap. Goldie didn't flinch, didn't argue, didn't fire back. She finished the scene with perfect control, thanked everyone with class, and walked out before a single person could respond. The next morning, she called her agent with a voice steady enough to cut glass. Emotionless, she said, "I'm out. I won't fight for respect in a room full of men who already decided I'm a joke." With that, Goldie stepped away from the project and from Dustin Hoffman forever. Years later, when someone asked her about that moment, she simply said, "Some men forget they're not directing the women around them." One quiet, razor-sharp line, and that was her revenge. Hoffman thought he exposed her weakness. But all he exposed was his own arrogance. Goldie didn't argue, didn't gravel, didn't look back. She walked away and left the ego behind. Then came Chevy Chase, the on-set arrogance that blew up their friendship for good. How ugly did it get? Goldie once told a friend, "If I ever have to smile next to Chevy Chase again, I'll quit Hollywood." That's how deep it cut. That's why he holds the number 4 spot on her silent blacklist. Back in 1978, Foul Play looked like the perfect pairing. Goldie, America's sweetheart, and Chevy, comedy's new king. On screen, magic. Off-screen, straight chaos. Chevy strutted onto set like the whole studio belonged to him. He mocked other actors' lines, rewrote jokes on the fly, messed up takes for fun, and if Goldie got a bigger laugh, he'd sulk for hours. Even worse, he'd mutter under his breath, "She's lucky to be here." Goldie tried to stay gracious. She joked. She kept things smooth, tried to cool the tension, but the cracks kept widening. Then came the night everything snapped. After another argument about a scene, Chevy stormed off and refused to come back unless the director rewrote it to suit him. Goldie stayed behind, sitting on the steps, drained and exhausted. She whispered to her stylist, "He's not funny when the cameras stop. He's just mean." By the end of filming, they weren't speaking at all. The studio practically begged her to do a sequel. There were millions waiting. But Goldie didn't hesitate. Not interested, she told her agent. And that was the last time she ever worked with Chevy Chase. Then came Sean Penn, number 5 on her hidden list of people she never wanted near her again. Goldie thought she'd seen every version of Hollywood arrogance, but she was wrong. Nothing prepared her for Sean Penn because this time the disrespect didn't happen on a set or in a private meeting. It happened in public under chandeliers, in front of a full ballroom of industry power players. And Goldie Hawn never forgot. It went down in 2014 at a Malibu charity gala where Goldie had been invited to deliver a short, heartfelt speech about mental health, a cause she spent years supporting with real dedication. When Goldie stepped onto that stage, the whole ballroom fell silent except for Sean Penn at his table. He let out this loud, dramatic sigh, rolled his eyes, and muttered, "Another celebrity wellness sermon." But the real hit came after she finished her speech to warm applause. Penn leaned back, smirked, and dropped the line that followed her for years. She should stick to giggling. Goldie didn't flinch. She didn't shrink. She smiled softly, lifted her glass in a quiet little toast, and walked out early with her head high. Only once she slid into the back seat of her car did she finally speak. My whole career, and I'm still reduced to giggles. That was the moment she drew a firm line in the sand. From that night on, Goldie refused to step foot into any event where Sean Penn's name was on the guest list. And when someone asked her years later how she felt about him, she didn't hesitate at all. Not my energy. She wasn't angry. She was simply done. Then came the final name on Goldie's silent blacklist, the one absolutely nobody expected, Kirk Douglas. Not a rival, not a bitter comedian, a full-on Hollywood titan. Started at an industry panel in the late 1990s. Goldie showed up as an Oscar winner, a producer, a seasoned powerhouse in the business. Kirk, already a legend, greeted her with that trademark grin, kissed her hand, and said, "You haven't aged a day, sweetheart." The crowd laughed. Goldie smiled. But inside, it stung like a compliment wrapped in disrespect. As the panel continued, things only got worse. Kirk cut her off again and again, finishing her sentences, correcting her takes, jumping in to grab the attention like the spotlight was still his personal property. Every interruption was a reminder of how some powerful men dismissed women, even the ones who had more than earned their place. The moderator later said, "You could feel her frustration shift the whole room. She went from glowing to glacier cold in minutes." After the event, Goldie confided to a friend, "He talks to me like I'm still the blonde in a bikini scene. I've won an Oscar." That one sentence said everything. Goldie stayed warm toward Michael Douglas, often praising him as the type of respectful man Hollywood needed more of, but she never spoke of Kirk again. "Some men," she quietly said later, "don't deserve a second act in your memory." And that was the cold truth. Kirk Douglas never even knew he made her list. Now you know the stories hidden behind Hollywood's golden smile. Which of these 6 names surprised you the most? And do you think Goldie was right to stay silent all those years? Or should she have called them out the moment it happened? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit like, smash subscribe, and come back for more untold Hollywood confessions only.